is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I can confidently speak on behalf of the whole Senate that we most welcome the presence of the most distinguished member of the 17th Congress after the Senate President, Majority Leader, Senate Minority Leader, and whoever else, Mr. President.
Yes, we welcome the distinguished gentleman from Bicol.
The proposed new appropriations for the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, and its attached agencies for fiscal year 2020 is 7.7 billion 720,099,000 pesos. Broken down or distributed as follows: 6.86 billion 863,464,000 for the Office of the Secretary, 11,261,000 for the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordination Center, CIIC, 229,596,000 pesos for the National Privacy Commission, and 615,778,000 for the National Telecommunications Commission, Mr. President. Having said that, the sponsor is now ready for interpellation.
Senator Grace Poe is recognized.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat, and I'd like also to acknowledge the presence of the members of the DICT, particularly our former colleague. This won't take long. We just wanted to see your presence here today. I'm sure many of us have missed you, especially the block, the matcha block. My question would be, in particular, one that has to do with telecommunications. The salient point of the rollout of common towers in the Philippines issued by the DICT. The main objectives are to build and convert at least 2,500 common towers in DICT-owned properties, hard-to-access areas as identified by the MNOs or the mobile network operators, and common towers in other government agency properties. To optimize the operations capital expenditures in terms of supporting infrastructure, and to free more funds for investment in core network equipment, and to promote the development of service innovation. So my question, Mr. President, is regarding the existing towers of DICT. Of the 180 existing towers owned by the DICT, how many of these towers need upgrading, converting before it could be appropriate for sharing to 2 or more MNOs? And how close are we to the deal of having 2,500 common towers?
All 180 need upgrading, Mr. President.
So who will shoulder the upgrading, and is this part of the budget that you proposed for this particular budget deliberation?
The common tower providers will be that will be the responsibility of the common tower providers.
Okay. It states also in the rules of the DICT that it is not allowed to collect lease or rental from ITCs or MNOs that they will construct if they construct towers. But the DICT will be allowed to receive compensation in kind, which I find a little bit vague.
Yes, in terms of services, Mr. President.
But what types of compensation? It's
Bandwidth.
just services?
Bandwidth, Mr.
Bandwidth services. Is there a need to perhaps clarify this in
Bandwidth that can be used for free Wi-Fi, yung pre-access, yung public access sa Wi-Fi.
So is there a particular document or agreement that states specifically what these compensation in kinds are?
Yeah, they're still in the process of consultation. and submission for agency rulemaking on the policy on the shared passive ICT infrastructure.
Okay, so for the record, Mr. President, perhaps they can be clear on the types of compensation in kind to avoid confusion and also to make sure that the ones that will avail of the lease and rental of these towers will actually be able to comply and fulfill with those compensations.
Yes, Mr. President, they're doing that.
Okay. Um, can we please, for the record, give examples of a mobile not network operator? Are these the big telecom companies,
Mobile network operators, Globe and Smart, Mr.
Globe and
President.
Smart? So when we talk about independent tower companies, they may not necessarily be a telecommunications provider. They're just the ones that are contracted to build the towers. Am I correct?
Yes, Madam, that is correct.
So-
And there's a third one, yung Dito. Aside from Globe and Smart, there's a third one, Dito.
Correct,
new one.
Rito, that's right. Now, in the independent tower company, Mr. President, what qualifications do you have to grant them the authority to be an independent tower company provider?
Hindi pa po final ito, yung financial qualifications, tapos, yeah, of course, technical, and yung mode of engagement. Teka.
Saan makikita yan? Kasi kung merong interesado maging independent tower company, syempre kailangan meron silang guidelines kung paano sila
Nakapost
makaka-qualify.
po sa website.
At kanino sila mag-a-apply to get the license for that
Online.
or the permit?
Online application
Through the DICT.
through the DICT.
Okay, that's clear. Now, in short, the MNOs and ITCs will select from the 2,500 common tower sites. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Have these tower sites been identified?
They have been identified.
Now, are these 2,500 common tower sites, let's say, because it says here it has to be a DICT property, am I correct? Or other government agency
That is
properties?
correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so 2,500 properties or 2,500 towers?
2,500 towers.
So just towers.
DICT and government owned.
Okay, so that means that in one particular government-owned property, whether it's DICT or other agencies, you can have as many as 5 towers? Maybe?
Co-located na po yon yung tatlo. Kasi common tower.
Hindi, kaya nga, pero di ba 2,500 towers, not properties. So, it's not necessarily the real estate, but the number of towers, right?
That is correct.
So, let's say, may isang kampo na napakalaking kampo. Pwede naman maglagay ng hindi lamang isang tower, kundi dalawa. Am I correct?
Magkalapit lang eh. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so...
Basically, it's a mapping problem, and they're still finalizing actually.
Okay. And also the reason I think the logic behind not having to collect rent or lease for these towers is so that the MNOs, with the money that they're going to save, will be able to add that for capital expenditure. Am I correct?
That is correct, Mr. President.
So in that case, what guarantee do we have that from what they're actually going to be saving, they will put it towards the improvement of their service in terms of capital infused?
DICT will make sure, Mr. President.
Well, I am quite confident with the Secretary of the DITC,
That's why
DICT now at the helm. But then, if he decides to join this body again, what will happen to to that?
It will be in the policy, clearly spelled out, Mr. President.
Then I'm looking forward to that. Aside from the others that I raised earlier, compensation in kind, perhaps this one also directing the MNOs to infuse more capital for the improvement of their service. Now, um, going here, going to Dito
Dito.
Telecom or Dito. Dito Telecom na dating Miss Latel Telecom. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The Senate understood the need to have further competition in the telecommunications industry to spur more, when we have more competition, then hopefully it will lead to better service and more options for our countrymen.
And less expensive.
Less expensive. That's why we approved that overwhelmingly in the Senate. On the other hand, just to recall what Dito Ms. Latel Communications committed, they committed to cover 37% of the population and provide 27 Mbps minimum average internet speed in year 1 of its operations. By year 5, Dito has committed to cover 84% of the population and provide minimum average internet speed of 55 Mbps.
That is correct,
Okay.
Mr. President.
Then Acting Secretary Rio of the DICT claimed that for Dito Telecom to be able to meet its commitments for its first year of operations, Dito Telecom needs to put up around 2,500 to 3,000 cell sites. Dito Telecom's first year of operations will end in 2020. Am I correct? July 2020?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. President.
As of October 2019, Dito Telecom has partnered with Sky Cable, owned by the Lopez family, and the group of Chavit Singson. Sky Cable is said to provide assistance with Dito Telco, with Sky Cable's unused fiber optic cables in Metro Manila, and Singson's LCS company is said to help Dito Telecom in putting up towers. Am I correct? Are
That
you
is correct,
familiar?
Mr. President.
But as of today, how many cell sites had already been completed in terms of construction by Dito Telecom? Do you have that figure?
Wala pa po. Ongoing lahat yan.
Okay. Yun ang medyo nakakatakot kasi
Pero may performance band din.
July 2020, dapat meron na silang 2,500 cell
I
sites?
understand these are all prefabricated. So mabilis lang po ito.
Okay.
In 2 months, they can put it up, Mr. President.
Mr. President, because I think part of the franchise agreement is that for every non-compliance, there will be a penalty. And this is a separate agreement even with the NTC. So I would like to know if they're not able to fully deliver on their commitment. Are there penalties in place that will motivate them to be able to comply with the agreement?
That is correct, Mr. President. Yung kanilang performance security in pesos to. Sa first year, 25.7 billion. 25 billion 704 million pesos. Sa year 2, 10.7 billion. Year 3, 8 billion. Year 4, 5.3 billion. Year 5, 2.7 billion. Spelled out po lahat yan.
So kung sa first year, hindi nila naibigay, substantially yung dapat nilang maibigay, meron silang fine na
25.704 billion.
Kaagad.
Ganun po. Oh. Parang merong 6 months na grace period.
May six. O sige. So medyo prorated to. So kasi sabihin na natin, no, if they promise that at the end of the first year, they will be able to put up 2,500 cell sites, kung ang na-put up lang nila 2,400, may
kulang.
proration naman. Proration o talagang total imposition of the 25.7?
May 6 months sila to fix, ano, para mag-comply doon sa talagang requirements. Pero ang kanilang barometer na gagamitin, yung coverage nila, pati yung speed.
Yung speed. Okay.
Kailangan, nag-commit sila ng 27 Mbps, i-deliver nila yon.
So we're looking forward to July 2020 plus 6 months thereafter for the ilang ang Mbps yung
27 for year 1.
27 Mbps.
Average po ito.
Oo.
Lahat average. So, year 2 hanggang sa year 5, kailangan nasa 55 sila, average speed.
Meron bang escrow account kung saan nakadeposito itong mga penalties na to?
May bank account po ito na, ano, may bank guarantee actually.
Okay. Um, as of today, would the DICT or the NTC know how much Dito Telecom's capex had already been obligated or spent in its efforts to meet its first-year commitments? May mga nagasta na ba sila? May mga...
Wala pa pong record ang DICT dito. Pero soon they will find out from dito.
Okay. And bearing in mind that part of the reason this was approved was the commitment that they will include underserved and unserved areas. Di ba?
Yes, madam.
Sa
That is
bag-
part of the franchise.
Actually, this is also a good thing that government properties are being utilized because precisely in almost all places of the country are government-owned properties and land. Now, recently in the news, there was an agreement between Dito Telecom and the AFP to set up cell towers in our camps. Is the DICT and the NTC aware? Are the DITC and the NTC aware of this?
They are aware of this, Mr. President.
And having the secretary a former military officer, as well as a member of this body, are there any apprehensions about this, or what safety measures have we taken to ensure the safety of our security?
The final MOA is still being reviewed by Secretary Lorenzana, and he promised us to submit the final MOA before the end of this month. This was taken up during the deliberation on the budget of DND and attached agencies.
So meaning, I'm correct that this is still not final.
Draft pa lang yung
Draft
MOA
pa
po.
lang yung MOA. But would it need the approval of the DICT?
They're being consulted, Mr. President.
Whose approval is it only for the AFP, right?
Secretary of National Defense.
Okay, but you know how every time there's a conversation about this, Mr. President, the answer of the AFP would always be, no, there are safeguards in place so that they cannot use this for espionage or anything that might violate our national security interest. But they're not necessarily technical people. The DICT composition would probably be more qualified. Can you state, or maybe you don't want to divulge this, but maybe you can supply our office, do we have any particular means, software, capability, intelligence to make sure that what they're erecting will not interfere with our own national security?
It goes without saying, Mr. President. In fact, they're closely coordinating, or DND is closely coordinating with the ICT for their technical input in this regard.
And when erecting
that's
these
necessary.
towers, let's not forget that Dito is actually in partnership with China Telco.
That is
So they
correct.
will have experts from the Chinese side enter our camps to erect those towers?
No, no, madam. In fact, the AFP has its own cybersecurity unit to take care of these things.
I hope that this will be taken into account because aside from the actual structure, the mere presence of a foreign national in our camps without being vetted can pose as a possible threat.
We certainly agree with you, Mr. President.
Now, for the next item and the last one, we had a law that was passed recently that RA 11311 in relation to the provision regarding free internet Wi-Fi in all terminals, stations, rest stops, and RoRo terminals. I'd like to know the update on this with regards to the installation, establishment of free Wi-Fi internet in these establishments. Meron ba? Namo-monitor ba ninyo? Who are they answerable to? Is it the DICT? Or I guess in terminals with the DOTR, but the DICT. Are you familiar with this particular regulation?
It's being closely coordinated with the OTR. And naka-input po yan sa IRR, Mr. President.
So, sinong, dito sa mga Wi-Fi na to, sinong sumasagot ng free Wi-Fi? For example, kung terminal yan ng mga bus, free Wi-Fi to the public, but the operator of the terminal is the one that will pay for the subscription. Am I correct?
That is correct. DICT yung in charge dyan.
So, sila nagbabayad, hindi kayo, correct?
Yes, madam.
But in government, let's say, RoRo terminals, sinong nagbabayad doon?
DICT pa rin. Kaya nga, alam nyo, Mr. President, during the committee hearing, no, which we presided, ang as per NEP, nakakalungkot kasi ang inilaan lang na budget sa kanila, pwera yung sa automatic appropriations, 3.674 billion. Eh malaki pa po yung pork barrel ng isang congressman na alam ko kaysa sa budget ng buong DICT. In fact, 0.13% lang ng total 4.1 trillion budget ang kanilang budget. And yet, ito yung makakatulong na malaki sa pag-asenso ng Pilipinas. So what we did sa Senate version, nagdagdag po tayo kaya umabot siya ng maski paano 7.7 billion. So and andito po si Secretary Lacson, dati natin kasama. Kung makita nyo, parang asking for pity. So baka pwedeng sa individual amendments, meron namang tumulong para madagdagan pa natin ng konti. Or if not, alam nyo merong special provision na yung spectrum user fee. No? Nakakakolekta yun ng certain amount. Every year, 2017, yung actual sa mga 2.3 and then 2018 nakakuha ng 3.7. But then, kapag nagbibigay ng budget ng DBM, may cap, kinakap sila ng 1.418 billion lang. For this year, actually, upon the request of the ICT, ni Acting Secretary Rio at the time, we recommended or proposed to amend yung sa special provision number 1, no? Na kung pwedeng alisin yung cap, kung ano yung makolekta sa yung spectrum user fee, ibigay na lang sa kanila para magamit din nila. But then it was vetoed. Unfortunately, it was vetoed by the President. And for 2020, we would again propose the amendment of that special provision para magamit naman lang nila yung sa user sa spectrum user fee.
You know, I agree, Mr. President. The importance given to the DICT is indicative of how we perceive development in our country in the coming years. With all of the economic growth that we are experiencing, we are all complaining about congestion on the roads. We really need the most improved infrastructure for our internet, for our cellular service, especially now that we're saying we are encouraging telecommuting. Eh kung mabagal naman yung ating mga signal, dahil walang enforcement power masyadong DICT, dahil wala masyadong budget, eh paano mahihikayat yung mga kumpanya na galingan ng kanilang serbisyo at performance? So I'm with you, and may I ask the good sponsor, Mr. President, how much increase the DICT needs for this particular budget?
Actually, we recommended to increase their budget to 29 billion pesos kasi yung kanilang infrastructure program, kailangan talaga matugunan na nila because sa e-government pa lamang, no, we can save a lot of money. I was in conversation with Senator Honasan then. He accompanied the President during the trip in South Korea. And yung South Korea, because of the efficiency of their sa e-government pa lang, they're saving $20 billion, di ba? And they're at it since 1987. We're really far, far behind. And that's the reason why we are appealing to this body to at least augment some more the budget of the ICT. Kasi ang explanation po nila, maski ipepacing yan, para bang itong mamamasahe ka sasakay ka ng jeepney papunta sa isang point, kailangan babalik ka uli, mamamasahe ka uli, babalik ka muna naman pagka hindi kumpleto yung kanilang funding program. So that's why, kaya lang, medyo malaki nga talaga yung requirement and baka hindi maibigay.
Pero sa ngayon, magkano nga uli yung naibigay pa lang?
7.7 billion.
7.7. So magkano yung realistically we can work with productively with a budget of how much? How much more do we need, and what particular flagship project do you need it for?
Talagang additional 23 billion yung kailangan nila. Kaya lang talaga mahirap ibigay. So when I asked them, ano bang priority nyo rito? That was the explanation given to me.
So in
Na
short,
hindi rin practical, kung hindi nila makukuha yung amount required, magpapabalik-balik, mas lalaki pa yung gastos.
well, subukan natin yung amount required, pero kung hindi, edi mananatili sa 7.7 billion. So
Yes.
minimal, imbis na optimal,
Well, if they
minimal
can
na
harness
lang.
the proceeds from the spectrum users
Spectrum.
fee, makakadagdag yon. Siguro kung projected sa
3 billion.
2020, nasa mga 3 point, siguro, give or take, 3.8, 3.9. May dadagdag yung differential doon sa 1.4 na binibigay ng DBM sa kanila as earmark. You know? So, makakatulong yun, Mr. President.
Okay, that's all for now, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the good sponsor for ably explaining the answers to some of my questions. I would just like to remind also the DICT to be on top of the promised commitments of Dito Telco, because the main reason why we approve that is because our countrymen are thirsting for better service and reasonably priced service for telecommunications. And if they can't deliver by 2020, July, and 6 months after that, then we're back to square one again. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you for your input. You seem to be very knowledgeable, and rightly so, because you are the chairperson of public services. Thank you.
Senator Ralph Recto is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this will be very brief. I am a believer of this department, and especially with its new leadership as well. So, Mr. President, and many of the questions have been asked already. Just one, I noticed looking at the budget of the DICT, there are four offices. Is that correct?
There are, including the Office of
Office
the
of the
Secretary.
Secretary.
We have the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, National Privacy Commission,
Yes.
NTC, National Telecommunications.
I noticed that the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordination Center has the smallest budget among the agencies.
Hindi pa po na-organize ito.
Hindi pa
Actually,
na-organize. Okay, so,
nakakadalawang appeal na sila sa DBM, pero hindi pa po na-organize ito.
and that's one of the most important mandates of the DICT, is that correct?
Yes, because it is an attached agency for policy and program coordination.
Okay.
Sila rin chair din ito ng DICT Secretary,
Yes.
Mr. President.
And having said that, kung hindi pa na-organize, we would not know if there have been any attacks already in the Philippines, cybersecurity.
They have already recommended the executive director of this center to the ES.
So what government agency today monitors any cyber attack in the Philippines? Is there any government agency today? Kung hindi pa na-organize,
Cybersecurity Bureau ng DICT.
so sa inyo din. Okay?
Sila
So,
in charge.
would they have data that they can share with us today on cybersecurity? Like how many attacks have we monitored this year? Meron na bang data?
7 million,
From foreign sources and or domestic?
13 million, ito yung local incidents, yung malware spread through flash drives. 7 million users, ito yung got attacked online, no? 37.4%. Tapos yung rise in cyber threats by 15%. Yun ang
Okay. What about cyber attacks on banks in the Philippines? Meron na ba kayo na monitor na gano'n?
Ito po yung yung top attack trends, yung banking trojans, 4.1% for of the 13 million, 4.1%. Tapos ransomware 0.4%. Tapos ito yung ranking yung crypto miner, ito yung top 15.6%. Followed by mobile 13.2%.
What about on our country's utilities? Tubig, kuryente, halimbawa. May mga attack na ba dyan?
Wala pong data pa na
pa.
nakukuha.
So wala pa tayo na
that regard.
monitor na ganyan. Pero bangko meron na.
Meron po, 4.1%. Ito yung fourth in the list.
Okay. Utilities, kuryente, tubig, wala pa tayo na monitor.
Yun ang kailangan ma-implement na talaga yung cybersecurity management platform.
Okay.
Kaya kailangan ma-organize na talaga yung CIIC.
Airport, seaport, transport, wala pa tayong data.
Wala pa po.
Okay. And that's what I noticed, out of a budget of 7.7 billion, ang budget ng cybercrime investigation is only 11 million for next year.
Yung cybersecurity management naman, meron silang na 600. Meron namang 600 million yung cybersecurity management.
For next year. Umpisa na natin. So I just wanted to make that manifestation, to put that in the record, how important this agency is, particularly on the area of cybersecurity.
They're in full agreement with your
Thank you very much.
honor, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
yes. First of all, I would just like to put on record that we welcome our distinguished former colleague, former Senator Gregorio Nasan, for coming home, welcoming back to the Senate. We miss him here. Such an upright and man of integrity, such an upright man of integrity. He's sorely missed by this chamber.
Welcome is good, but
No
you-
other member,
but
Mr.
you-
President.
There are no other interpolations? I understand that Senator Revilla wishes to take the floor.
No, Senator, I spoke to him, sir.
All right.
Senator Villa does not
Okay.
wish to interpolate.
May I ask the sponsor, Senator Lacson, has the Secretary of the DICT made any side comments yet?
ang sinabi niya lang po, yung pag-welcome natin sa kanya, most welcome, pero short yung budget.
Well, I was expecting something like that. Anyway, so Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I move that the budget of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, Office of the Secretary, Cybercrime Investigation Coordinating Center, National Privacy Commission, and the National Telecommunications Commission is deemed submitted and approved. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the budget of the DICT and its attached agencies are hereby deemed submitted. Session suspended.